So, Ryan, you see that?
Yes, I do. Good
Okay.
afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, good afternoon. Welcome to one of the final sessions. We're keeping you from the happy hour. We realize that. So we will efficiently go through this and leave ample time at the end for questions. But I wanted to welcome everyone to the Yes, You Can HITRUST Startup conversation this afternoon. With me, I have Dr. Ryan Bosch, who is president, co-founder, CISO for an organization that is embraced HITRUST, is currently certified, and very much working with HITRUST in their information security program. So with that being said, let me first start with the whole program around that HITRUST has created for startups. It is called the RightStart Program. It is designed for organizations that may not have the resources, but certainly have the risk and need to get started implementing an information risk program to protect the data that they're supporting for their clients and customers, as well as show compliance to any of the regulatory or authoritative sources that they're placed under requirements for. The RightStart program into itself is founded in the HITRUST approach. So it is inclusive of all the core components of the HITRUST approach, in that it has the HITRUST Academy as part of it. The assurance methodology is the same. The assessment platform, MyCSF, is accessible to these organizations, just like any organizations, and also access to the full HITRUST CSF. Okay, so a little bit about who the program was designed for. A number of years ago, we started to get a lot of questions from organizations that were smaller, startup, early revenue, some that didn't even have a product in market yet. And we realized that we were not addressing and enabling that segment of the market where a lot of the innovation comes out, but then also still have the same level of risk that maybe some of the larger organizations have. So we designed this program for startups and early revenue organizations that meet a certain criteria. They need to meet 2 or 3 of the criteria, which I'll talk about here in a couple of minutes. It's very much scalable to the organization's size and the resources they have. We also designed a program for the venture capitalists and private equity investors where they can be part of the HITRUST program, granting access to the companies that they've invested in or they own that are still in the early stages of their development. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but why have startup companies and small businesses, what have they done in the past to try and overcome this barrier? Many of them don't have a way to integrate risk management and compliance and security all in a systematic manner, so they approach it from an ad hoc standpoint. Frequently, that comes to light when a customer requests some level of assurance for the access they have to protected data. Then organizations start to search around and figure out, what do I do? Which risk assessment platform, what type of assessments do I need to have to show that I am protecting, important data, as well as being able to show compliance to HIPAA or whatever authoritative source they're required against. The smaller companies are particularly vulnerable because they have limited resources, limited knowledge about implementing and embedding comprehensive risk management programs. They have limited dollars to spend. So every decision is focused on the most efficient and effective methods to address the demands of the market, not necessarily privacy and security, but that's a critical piece of the program as well. So just to talk a little bit about the programs that are included in our RightStart program. First of all, we have the HITRUST CSF, which is our framework that incorporates 40 different authoritative sources, inclusive of NIST, cybersecurity, NIST 853, HIPAA, GDPR. We continue to update this at a rate of, 1 to 2 times a year, sometimes more frequently. We just released version 9.5 a week or so ago, which now includes a HIPAA reporting and compliance pack. So if you haven't looked at that, I suggest you take a look at that. That would be another big benefit for anyone that's under HIPAA requirements. We have the CSF Assurance Program, which is our quality assurance team that once an external assessor has validated your report and the testing is complete, HITRUST places their eyes for another review to make sure that the 19 domains that you're seeking certification against do hit the maturity levels that are required to be HITRUST certified. The nice thing about this is that once you're certified or you have a validated report, you can share that report to any organization that is requiring some level of assurance of you. And that way it will help prevent having to fill out the questionnaires that are not always tied to underlying security controls, reduces the amount of effort on internal resources, and it allows you to really assess once and report many, which is really what HITRUST enables organizations to do. The MyCSF platform, the next one, is the assessment SaaS platform that enables you to manage this program within your organization. You can complete your assessments, you manage your documentation, you can do target assessments to see where you stand against any of the 40 plus authoritative sources, all within the MyCSF platform. Then it also includes a seat at our academy that offers training for the individuals that are going to be leading the project. It also would designate them as a certified CSF practitioner, a credential, so they truly understand how HITRUST works, how the assurance process works, so that they can more skillfully and efficiently help your organization move through this process. So I mentioned before there are a few qualifications that we look for an organization to participate in the RightStart program. It is a bundled program, including all of those programs at a discount for organizations that are interested. So it'll be a lower cost on the HITRUST side to these organizations to get started. But we ask that they meet 2 of the 3 requirements here, which is incorporated or founded within the last 3 years, have under 50 full-time employees, and revenue under $10 million. The requirements is a 2-year subscription level, are a RightStart subscription level. It includes a self-assessment or validated assessment, whichever program. You can choose both if you like. The seat as a at the CCSFP training course, and it also, and including the refresher the following year, and it also includes a conference pass each year of the agreement to participate in the conference as you're participating this year. Okay. So a lot of organizations, they start this journey very much like what Ryan and his organization, they're kind of in this position where they've completed the RightStart program and are ready to graduate onto the next level. So when a company moves through this, achieves certification, or maybe they're not even ready for certification, after 2 years, they should be in a position to move to a regular subscription as part of the HITRUST program. And by then, you would hope that organizations kind of have the DNA embedded, the language, the muscle memory to be able to continue down this path towards HITRUST certification, or in many cases, simply a validated assessment. Many of them don't choose not to pursue certification. It's really up to the organizations. The other thing, and the last thing I'll point out here that's really important is from an investor standpoint, this really helps an organization, and maybe Ryan can talk about this during his session, but having a strong security posture really positions you much better within portfolio, or for the portfolio companies of a venture firm, for example, or competing in the market, or if you're ready to exit the organization. So anyway, so Ryan, I see some smiles. Is there some good questions coming through that I should address right now?
Not yet, Eric. I think we got 40 participants right now, which I'm encouraged by, and applaud them for their virtual presence.
Yes.
Not yet. And just while Eric's taking a pause, Eric and I endeavor to wrap up a little early, so there is an opportunity for QA through your chat. So I wanted to make sure to let everyone know that. Eric, last comment, I was nodding on a few of those things, as I am eager to share in a little bit our own journey at Socially Determined.
Sure.
So completely agree that we live in a one-strike environment around privacy, security, and compliance, particularly in healthcare. And that's why this is so important.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, Ryan will be talking today specifically about their healthcare. They're in the healthcare market, but it's not specific to just healthcare. It can be leveraged across other industries, just like the full, validated report would be available. The framework is inclusive of all those different authoritative sources, so it can be used across industries. So with that being said, I want to formally introduce Dr. Ryan Bosch, who's decided to help us in this journey to educate our customers and prospects on the RightStart program. So Ryan, it is all yours.
Well, thank you, Eric, very much. I'm super pleased to be here and share a little bit about our company and, of course, our HITRUST journey. My goal here collectively with Eric is to provide some insights, some pearls, some lessons learned, why it matters to us, and how we've matured as a company in our posture over the past 3 years. And I have some slides to lead us through that. So a little bit of background about me, and it's okay, Eric, thank you. I wanted you all to know that I've been fortunate in my career to be a health leader, and I said health, not health care. They're different. Within the military, as an Air Force physician and flight surgeon, within academics at George Washington University, where I led the Division of General Internal Medicine. Within industry, where I was fortunate enough to work at Deloitte Consulting in their healthcare practice, both in the federal and their commercial space. And then ultimately moving over to the payer provider world, specifically working at Inova Health System in the National Capital area here in Washington, D.C., where for almost 7 years I was able to lead their technology footprint and their analytic effort around both the electronic health record and the use of payer tools around the accountable care organizations and the strategies that were required early meaningful use days. I say all that just to credential the opinions that you'll hear today. And I'll transition right to the why. Why is it so important to have this security posture? Well, I'll give you 3.6 trillion reasons. That's how much money is spent in healthcare. 3.6 trillion. And staying right with the why, Socially Determined as a company, as a technology company dedicated to providing full visibility around social risk intelligence. So what does that really mean? And why is HITRUST so important? On the slide you'll see in front of you on the left is what I would call traditional analytics around the clinical view of population health. You'll see the aperture, almost like a keyhole on the left, what we know clinically. We learn clinically from populations how heavy their disease burden is, how advanced their disease is, maybe even what some of the costs that disease has shown. We know now as a marketplace that there is so much unseen. In that black area in this analogy is the unseen opportunity to really open up and surface the impact of social risk on clinical outcome, cost outcomes, and business drivers. You'll see on the right the impact of social risk, things like health literacy, transportation, food, housing, economic impact, both to the community and the individual. These items, these risks are imperative for us as a business. But to get to them, we need both protected health information and also information that has a protected use that we may get from partners that sell data. So our security stands both in healthcare and with partners outside of healthcare, just in the health business, is super important. So as I mentioned earlier, it's an imperative around our mission as a company. I learned that early in my career 20 years ago, back in the military, around managing professional reliability and access to nuclear weapons, around the academics at GW when we were dealing with specific patient care issues with notable VIPs in the DC area, and then also in industry as I understood HIPAA and how it was performed. And as the onslaught of high tech and the advancement of electronic health records, it became imperative that we move towards a synthesized trust environment. And that's what HITRUST provides. Next slide, please, Eric. So again, taking a bit of a step back, because I'd like to make it informative here before happy hour, and then I'll bring home some of the parts about our HITRUST journey here. As a company, I wanted to make sure you saw some of our company statistics. Socially Determined is a startup. We met 3 out of 3 of those requirements for the RightStart program. I'm happy to hear Eric say we're near graduating, but we're super excited about the work that we've put in. And I want to start by, this is the ethos of the company. Our HITRUST certification is not of our software. It's not of our data science. It's not of our process for managing and inputting data. It is a company posture all the way around. And I want you to experience and appreciate that, because with that stance, the HITRUST program, those 5 opportunities that come with the RightStart program, you'll see how each one of them has unique value when approached from that perspective of total optimization, continuous improvement cycle, as we work through the different common security frameworks year over year. A little bit on the left is about our software. Socialscape is our cloud-based platform that analyzes social risks and evaluates the impact of those risks on our clients' business drivers. If they're insurance companies or payers, that driver could be the total cost of care. If they're providers, it could be clinical disease burden and outcomes. If they're life sciences, it could be around adherence to a medication. And we have many other customers. I have a selective group that are represented here in this slide. Next slide, please. I'll land the plane here on what we do as a company, because then you'll see why the context of our HITRUST journey is so important to us. We only do 4 things for our customers, just 4 things. We identify risk, quantify the opportunities, prioritize action, and measure impact. So around specific social risks, we identify across the nation at a 200-meter hex on a map with geospatial reference, scores and metrics for those social determinants I mentioned earlier: health literacy, economic well-being, transportation, food literacy. And each of those risks, we can drill down to a 200-meter hex in a community. In addition, when receiving a roster from our clients, we can create and measure and generate individual risk. This allows a client, for example, a payer with 100,000 lives in a Medicaid plan, to specifically quantify opportunities around a food as medicine program or a ride share program regarding their Medicaid or Medicare team members. Number three, it allows us to prioritize action. So we're giving real action about real people, all within that protected, compliant, secure, and private cloud. Real actions that can be prioritized. So our large partners on the provider side, folks like ProMedica Health in Toledo, that we can help them understand whether their current interventions, a great intervention for them is a Market on the Green grocery store, where they're establishing both better job skills, better nutrition training, and opportunities for fruit and vegetables in a community that does not have fruit and vegetables in a food desert, not lacking grocery stores. So much bigger and easier to scale than just a referral by a doc like me to a patient to go to a food pantry. And lastly, we measure impact. So we're humble and arrogant in this manner. Humble in that we measure it to see if it works. Arrogant in that we believe it will, because we've seen it work in our customers and we have the use cases to show them. Next slide, please. So I'm going to land the plane on hopefully what is most important to the audience now that you have the context. And I do see that there's a few folks that are putting some comments and some feedback in the chat. Thank you. Let me really share that my goal is to provide the pearls either now or in the Q&A session. This is a Gantt chart of what we learned and when we learned it and how we moved through our HITRUST journey since I founded the company early in 2018. We started in Q2 with our readiness assessment, I started by achieving that readiness assessment in Q2 of 2019. An imperative from our team and our leaders that did all this hard work is that we put together a information security and management program. That's the ISMP, and we mapped that specifically to the HITRUST version 9.2 level 1 at that time. A crucial step, so the confluence of all those different standards, NIST, HIPAA, GDPR, are all put into MyCSF. And you're given the opportunity then to take advantage of that Quick Start program and then get to what was our first validation in Q2 of 2020. And we were super excited about achieving that. One comment while Eric gets to the next slide, and then I want to give some time for some questions and such. We really benefited from the ability to form a 3-person partnership with our HITRUST leaders that partnered with us and with our independent assessor. And that ability to put inside those domains and those controls our efforts over time so that it became an area where if we did miss a mark or hadn't quite achieved, we had that constant optimization pathway to show what we did do, what we have done, and our goal to continue to improve. Next slide, please, Eric. So here's where we sit today, and I want everyone to know that we have done the same thing to map our ISMP directly. Matthew McSpadden and Min Parmalee from our team helped me map that directly to the Common Security Framework 9.5. And so we're leaning in, after our interim assessment that we achieved in Q2 of this year, we are leaning into our chosen level of HITRUST for 2022. And we really are excited about having everything stored in our MyCSF platform so that when we move and mature inside a level from level 1 to level 2, we have the benefit of that constant iteration. We knew what we did before, and we can really leverage the value of this 3-party relationship, both the auditing of what we do, how we do it, and then benchmarking it through the HITRUST program. I'll take a pause there. I see a bunch of different things in the chat. Eric, what did I miss, and what would you highlight, please?
Yeah, so I think maybe the first question would be, when did you realize that HITRUST was going to give you the best path and option, and how did you even become familiar with HITRUST?
Sure. So great question. And there's a few other questions also I'm just noticing in the chat. So Eric and I will pull them in. So Eric, in my journey personally and within the team, I grew up underneath both that professional reliability program at the Pentagon and then HIPAA, early HIPAA days with EHRs, and then meaningful use security assessments. So in that journey, I've seen the chicken soup, if you will, of different standards across that. We knew that HITRUST was what we wanted based on the assess once and report to many focus, that it was a confluence of multiple different levels. And we knew it needed to be about our company. So going all the way around education and process. So it was an imperative for me as a former CIO at a health system, having consulted with payers. We're working with large Fortune 50 customers right now, and it is a one-strike environment. We must provide this compliance, security, privacy, even to start the conversation. So it became an imperative for us.
Great, thank you. So do you have some chat questions?
I do. Okay. So a couple comments in the chat, and I'll, looks like some were direct message. So I appreciate the claps, as well as the call out for health equity and the work that we do and our team does. So acknowledge that, and I have a wonderful team. The next question about our team and leadership was how many people were on our team and how did we grow that team? So we have a 3-person team that is responsible for our HITRUST certification and our company stance around both compliance and privacy. Much like my time at Deloitte Consulting, we have a separate protocol in reference to the action versus the audit. So I liken it a lot to the controls that are around the financial part of our business, meaning that our HITRUST team, 3 individuals right now, they work in a separate reporting structure outside of our IT team. And that gives them the controls and the independence to recommend what we need to do and to audit our own practices. That's where we sit today. We're a company of about 40 FTEs, to give some perspective to the size of our team and how we attacked this journey. A few other questions. Let's see here. Did you begin the validated assessment while your platform, the implemented system, was still in development, or after it was already processing the covered information? How did you do that? That's an excellent point. And so we began simultaneously with the stance of the company's posture around HITRUST. And that began with the one earlier slide that may still be shown on the screen, with getting that initial baseline assessment and HIPAA assessment. We had a strong education program when we onboarded employees, so it was natural for us, even at the 4 and 5 employee level, to have that training and HIPAA stance, knowing that our customers would be giving us data on their populations, rosters of employees or rosters of patients or rosters of beneficiaries. I do hear the point you're making in the question, and no, we did not have the software platform at the beginning. So we took in information within our company privacy and security bubble and managed that outside of the platform. The platform evolved over time, and it was almost the opposite of your question, so to speak. The platform was added into our company's stance as we continue to mature our controls through the process. I hope I've answered that question. Eric, you may have had other companies that asked the same question. Do you want to add some color to that?
Sure. Yeah, we do have a lot of organizations that will engage with us as they are still in development of a particular product or software, and we will work with them, help them understand how to leverage the framework to begin designing their information security program, so that within the design, they are prepared for understanding what controls need to be monitored, the level of implementation that those controls need to have to meet compliance requirements. So more and more we are seeing even very mature organizations that are still doing this type of development reach out to us, as well as startups, to kind of build and design based on achieving and maintaining a HITRUST certification and that level of assurance, knowing that their customers are going to ask for it at some point.
Thank you, Eric. Eric, there was a suggestion, if you can minimize the screen, then you will see that there's a few suggestions in there. We can probably pop the screen back up.
Okay.
A few questions, one of which I think was to all of us, and that was about how you go about high trusting a company. Eric, I'm sure that's one you hear a lot. So you want to take first crack at that?
Yeah, and so it gets into the core of what we do in terms of what we certify. We don't certify organizations, and we're very specific in terms of any report that HITRUST issues, is that it specifies the environment for which the controls are implemented. So we won't certify a product or an organization necessarily. We secure the environment where the data resides that needs to be protected. Hopefully that's helpful. So if an organization is saying they're HITRUST certified, it needs to also accompany or be accompanied with the environment and the scope of what that assessment covers. So any relying party very clearly understands where it's implemented the certification and that validated report. So hopefully that answers the question. I did, Ryan, want you to mention, if you'd like, talk about your assessor selection, if you want to go into that. If not, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I should clarify my comments too from earlier, because I see now how I presented maybe a conundrum there. Before we had a standalone cloud-based platform branded Socialscape that did our compute and was licensable to our customers, we had a set of processes and policies that managed this data inside our own structure and application, if you will. And so our company stance to manage that set of data management tools, the application internally, is what we circled as the target for our HITRUST certification as we move through the process. So I wanted to add a little clarity, because I can see how the comments I made might not have been as clear. Eric asked a question about the advisors, the assessors. A couple pearls I would add as we're in the Q&A session here are the ability to work with a common assessor. And I've had experience with a couple different groups in different positions. And I'm comfortable sharing or putting in the chat who we used for our third-party assessor. But I wanted to emphasize that the independent assessor program that HITRUST puts forward, that Eric can give more information, was also super helpful for us, because we want to have an assessor that's super comfortable with the MyCSF environment, the controls around it, the way we map to those controls. And so that three-party partnership that I mentioned earlier is super important. And I think that's some, I got some scars from past security and HIPAA things where that just didn't work. So I'm super pleased with that. I'm comfortable sharing. We used BDO for the work we did. There are others I've used successfully. Eric, anything else that you'd like me to call out? Or
no, I think just looks like we answered Matt's question, I believe. I'd encourage if there are any more questions, chat them in.
And Eric, maybe while we're waiting, I'll make one other call out from my team. They valued the Academy program, and to be able to circle back each year with an additional seat, and to help with a small team like I have, creating a mature pathway for growth within each team member, so they can continue to understand the maturation from level 1 to level 2 around each one of the controls. I would encourage you to take advantage of that Academy program.
Yeah. So I have one other question I'll add. Would you be available to talk with any organization, that anyone participating on the call that may have questions about kind of how you implemented your program, and would you be open to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I would. And I thought about saying absolutely not for humor, but I don't think it lands well in the virtual
We're a little
environment.
heavy. Yeah.
So, yeah. Happy to be helpful. This stuff's super important. I would emphasize that it's around health, so it goes beyond healthcare, and it goes around both protected, permissive use type data, financial industry data. There's multiple controls that are at play here. So happy to be helpful and support anyone on their HITRUST journey, and hopefully see you in person at some future HITRUST in-person conference.
Next year, we hope. Yes, that we're planning in person, I believe. So we'll have this behind us, hopefully.
And if you need any social risk intelligence, I'm happy to talk to you about that too.
Yes. All right. Ryan, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for joining us. And if you, I do want to remind you that we will continue into the happy hour. So please feel free to join us. The virtual networking, I went into it last night. It was still a lot of fun, even though it was virtual. So I encourage you to join us, ask any questions. I've got my team manning the booth and the resource center. So if you have any questions or need to schedule a call, please do let us know. And thank you again for attending. And thank you, Ryan, for co-presenting with me today.
Thanks, Eric, very much. Thanks to everybody. Have a good day. Enjoy happy hour.
All right. Thank you.